Mr. America. Al got his. I guess we know who's going to lead the pledge this morning. You might as well get tuned up, Al. You need a drink, water? Get your voice tuned up?
That's isn't always the case.
I need a ride out to Sharps after the meeting. Is anybody going to volunteer? You'll volunteer, okay? I got hit by I thought a bomb went off. Got hit by a rock, but just did my windshield in my pickup.
You'll see a whole line when you get in it.
Holy cow! I mean, the initial was that size, and then she about a mile down the road, she went all directions. You know.
Story about that. I was on my way out to Denver 2 weeks ago. Because you got on the side of the road, I had a semi truck, breaks my windshield. Get out to Denver, I have to replace my windshield because it's expired. The next weekend, drive back, driving out to Deadwood, rock comes up on this side of the pier because my windshield breaks my windshield again.
Yes, almost. You don't have to clean them. You just get a new windshield, right?
So now I'm waiting for a windshield to come in for my truck.
I'm surprised they're not as expensive. They're not that bad. That's one good thing that they've kind of held their price. It was installed, I think $220, something
One
like that.
out in Denver was the OEM one, stuff 600.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. One of the original one back. The second one I put in is not OEM. And it was like 300 and something.
So,
Told them unless it was ballistic.
I'm glad I got $500 deductible. So what's the other? Yeah. That's amazing that most of the time when you got $500 deductible, the price of the windshield is $499. You know? Or when your water heater starts leaking, then it's got a 5-year warranty and it's 4 years, 11 months, and 28 days, right? Or the life of the water heater. Well, what is the life? Good looking shirt you got on. This is 4-H week.
This is 4-H week.
Yeah, I did the 4-H thing at Cotton County last night. I judged it's not even going to Hamlin County.
That reminds me, Becky will not be here.
Yep.
They let me know after the agenda had gone out.
I have to go out to see my grandmother's pictures.
I had the opportunity to work with your daughter last night. She worked with Betty Glassable and myself with paperwork.
Found
So
it?
I had a good chance to visit with her and your grandchildren, your grandson and granddaughter. Your
Somebody's
wife was
go
there,
off.
keeping them in line. So the whole family was there except Harvey.
I thought it was somebody's phone went off.
Yes,
That's been a bit ago.
I was there in the morning.
It's 9 o'clock.
All right.
This is our, not by far, the longevity of some people, but this is our third generation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 a.m. It is Tuesday, August 6th, and welcome to the weekly Cotton County Board of Commission weekly meeting. We'll open the meeting with the pledge, and the pledge will be led this morning by Al Johnson. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. Appreciate that. Housekeeping chores, if you got a cell phone, which I'm sure you do, either silence it or turn it off. If you do get a call that you need to take, please step out in the rotunda so you don't disrupt the meeting. We would appreciate that much. Also, this meeting is being streamed live, so if you wish to approach or have an issue or something to visit with the board, you will be on that stream. Just a heads up so that you know that's going on. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on some item that is not on the agenda? we want to make certain that you have time so that you can address the board, and that being said, we would do that during the open session. We wouldn't be able to act on it because it's not an agenda item, but we certainly would like to hear from you if you have something. I don't see anyone, so is there anyone on the board, any board members that have issue or conflict of interest with any items on the agenda? Seeing none, then I would
Make a
ask for an
motion
approval of the,
to approve the agenda.
approve the agenda. Motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? I do have two requests for executive session, and to my knowledge, there wouldn't be any business conducted after the executive session for the press's information. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. What about
Move to
the
approve is emailed.
minutes of the July 23rd
Second.
meeting? We have a motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? See none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, number 6, we have a guest with us today, Mr. Kranz from Kranz Insurance, to discuss on renewal of employees' health insurance plan. And I guess I could help him out and just cut it short and say it is what it is, right?
Well, that's about right. I hate to say that. Might pass one around.
He does have pens with him.
I've got pens.
Yeah.
But you know, the problem is I only had 6.
Oh.
So that's the way it goes. So, well, I appreciate you letting me come here again. I'm Ray Kranz again with Kranz Insurance. So, just wanted to be able to go over the renewal with you. Unfortunately, the claims are not what we'd like them to be at this point. So, just wanted to go over a little bit with you. I'm not sure if you have any questions before I start, or if you'd like me just to kind of go through what I know.
Yep.
Be fine, so. Okay, if you take a look on the left side, I just wanted to kind of show you again where we're at comparatively with history. I know, and you have seen some of this, so we are looking at a 15% rate increase for this year. And I'm going to show you why the 15%, a little bit more about that. But I want to show you with history where we're at comparatively with where we started. You know, so basically 2013 to 2015, it was a Blue Cross policy. At that time, we were at $1,726 a family. Even with the rate increase, we'll be at $1,780 a family. The single rate would be $696 in 2015. Now it'll be $712. So, considering it's been 5 years, and as bad as health insurance has been the last 5 years, I think Sanford is being very fair, and I want to go through and show you why. So, does anybody have any questions on that? I know I went through some interesting things. I know my point 3, Sanford did. They asked me quite a bit whether about loyalty. Actually, you know that the 25% that they initially offered, they thought that was what they would want to stay with, and I had to work on it quite a bit to. You know, on loyalty that, you know, hey, well, I'll try and talk the commissioners into understanding that this is, yeah, they're only giving it 15% this year, but it's going to keep going up. You know, this is not something that's a one-time thing. And when I show you the rates, and I've got actually some updated information, even from what I gave you last time, and it shows you how bad the claims are getting to be right now. So. The other thing I want to point out, the claims that I'm giving you are real claims. It's not just the total claims that sometimes gets reported, and I wanted to show you that the total claims, the amount that's paid is actually in here. For paid and RX claims are actually detailed in there. So, does anybody have any questions on that so far?
So basically, what the original was a 25%
Absolutely.
increase, and they have reduced it down to 15.
Yes. I've got the initial quote, if you want to see it.
No, I
But, no, I
just
mean,
want
it's
that point,
interesting.
yeah, that, I mean, that was,
Yeah, they gave me a 25%,
yeah,
and we did some begging.
right,
Yeah, well, thanks for
Let's
doing
put it that way.
that.
yeah, absolutely.
So, boy, the chart that okay, yeah, that information that they gave me on this first page doesn't matter, but okay. They've got the final renewal increase on the bottom of these sheets being 25%. I'm sorry about that. I printed off the wrong one. It's pretty obvious on those pages. Do you have the
I think we have,
initial
I
one?
think I have the original, yes, some here.
So I,
Yep,
sorry about that.
Which one's yours?
here you go.
This right
I
here.
have the
Okay, this, the rate is, I know I gave these out before, but it was a 15% rate increase. The bottom of this sheet is the wrong sheet that I just handed out, so I apologize.
The
rate-
25%, is that the
Yeah,
one you're talking about?
that is the initial, that is the rate
No.
that they initially gave me.
Right.
And so the new one, instead of 773.79, it will be 712.68.
Family.
And the, no, that's a single rate.
Oh, okay.
And the family rate, instead of 1933, will be 1780.50.
Okay.
But that's what's on that first page that you gave us.
The first page, I mean, this was the initial
all-
quote that they gave me.
Yeah, this is all current, this is
Yes,
all-
that's current, yes.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, on this sheet, for somehow, the
Yeah,
second time I
the
printed
first
them off,
packets I gave you had
Have
the
the
right
15%.
numbers in it.
Okay.
So I apologize, I printed the wrong
Do you guys
sheets
have
on the
the
second one.
15 one? Okay, because if we want.
Everybody
copies.
got it at one time, yeah.
Yep, that's the wrong, these are the wrong sheets, but the actual figures are 712 for a single, 1780, that's the $1,000 deductible. The $2,000 deductible will be 646.40 a single, and 1640.80 a family, 1614.80 a family. And the single rates for the 3,000 is 608.10, and the family is 1519.05. So, just wanted to go over that. But that is what they're offering for an insurance, for the rates for the upcoming year. So, the next page goes into client loss ratios, and the first part shows where they're at through March 31st of this year. So,
Is that in the raise up?
yeah, that's this first big packet.
Client loss ratio.
Yep. So that shows through March 31st. So if you take a look, I mean, in 2017 is that first page, that was the first 3 months. There's not much there, at 52%, which is pretty good. You know, when you get to the second year, that was April 1st to March 31st of 2018. They had $1.3 million in claims billed. They actually allowed $621,000. So you see there's a large discount there. They paid out $528,000. The other 90-some thousand was paid by the employees. And then they also paid out another $117,000 in prescriptions. So the total that they paid out is $645,000. Now the IBNR, what that means is that incurred but not reported. They're probably at 99 point some odd percentage in there right now. But if you want to know what IBNR stands for, but basically in that year they were at 87.74% loss. So that was last year's renewal. Basically, this year from April 1st to March 31st of 2019, they billed $785,000. They had $1.889 million in medical claims. They allowed $1 million. They paid out $939,000 in medical bills, and $124,000 in claims on the prescriptions. Do you see that on the bottom? Total that they paid out was $1.1212 million, and they took in $785,000. That's 141% loss for that period. So the farther it goes along the line, the worse it gets. That's my point. And I'll show you now. The next sheet that I put in here, there's a 25,000 threshold on the top. And that's the claims over 25,000. So this is more updated even. So this goes through June 30th of this year and what's been paid so far. 605,000, paid RX is 80,000, 685,000. That's just on big stuff. The next one, the next page gets into all of the details completely, the next group of pages. So if you take a look on that, from July 1st through June 30th, the total premium billed was 801,000. Total medical claims allowed 1.04 million. Medical claims paid was 931,000 on this. Or no, the medical claims allowed was 1.04 million. The claims billed was 1.88 million. The prescription claims were another 138,902. So their incurred loss ratio at this point is 153% almost. And that's true figures.
And that's through June 30th, right?
That's through the 30th of June. And that,
We got half a year to go yet.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say because it is a 15% rate increase. I hate 15% rate increases as much as anybody does. But I at the same time, I think they've been very generous in bringing it down to 15%. So,
Those are driven by the health of your
your group,
group.
because you're a large group, it's your group that determines
This is 12 months of data, so it's from July last year to.
the June 30th of
okay,
this
so
year.
this is
Yep.
the year's worth.
If you look on the top, it has
Right,
the
right.
service dates
Yep.
and the paid dates. So, yeah. So you can see the figures are just continuing to get, unfortunately, worse. So, a 15% rate increase is not, again, what I'd like to see. But overall, again, in history, we're doing pretty well. And you know, they did want me to warn you that next year, even if it's not as bad as what they thought, it's going to be because they're behind.
Right.
Well, and I think that's pretty standard with whatever healthcare plan you're a part of. I don't think I think 15% is high, but I don't think that that's out of line. Looking at the numbers here, they're still taking a loss. And so,
That's a significant loss, yeah. That doesn't take into account anything, doesn't take into account any of their costs. This is just what they paid out in bills. So for running the program, for setting up for the doctors, paying the bills, all those extra costs. Now, again, as I've said before, Sanford has got one advantage, and Avera has the same advantage. Usually, on the big stuff, they're paying themselves. So they can take a loss and still come out all right.
All right, you have any
Yep.
questions for?
Well, and as far as, taking it out for bids, anybody would look at what our history is. So it really, it's going to affect
Yeah.
what their quotes are as well.
Yeah, and I mean, even a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and I know a couple of the new Whitmore members might not know, I mean, I've recommended
Yes.
going out for bids in the past.
Yep.
This time I don't.
Because of the
Yeah, I
health
mean,
of the
it's,
group.
and Sanford is watching, let's be honest, they're,
Yeah.
You know what's
They-
going on.
they know what's going on.
Yeah.
And they want, they're hoping to see some loyalty
Well, and it's
back.
just for the benefit of the public to realize, that we are being
All
as
right.
conscientious
we-
with what
yes.
we can do, but when
Yeah.
you have some major issues going on, then you're limited,
Yeah.
so.
Sanford did come up a couple months ago, and Cindy and I went through with them the details, and I did not want to share all the details
Right.
because it gets into personal information.
Right.
But it was pretty, yeah.
It was not a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, when they did give us our renewal, it was not a surprise based on that meeting and knowing what our claims
Yeah.
are doing, so.
I think the 15% was the best we could have possibly ask for.
Yes, yep, and we have budgeted for 10%, so,
We're only 5% short.
right.
If and when we approve this package as a board, how are the employees informed? Will there be a sit-down meeting with them or a
We,
informational meeting?
nope, we send out a form to each employee offering them to make a selection on the plan they want. So they will see the premiums at that time.
Is that sufficient? Do we need to do more, you know?
I don't think so. I think, you know, they
That's
ask
been
us, we
typical.
tell them what's going on, and this meeting here
Sure.
will
Well,
get
most
the
of them-
message out also.
Single coverage is covered.
Right,
100%.
Yep.
right.
This
So-
is those, I did want to point out that for some reason it shows one person had the $3,000 deductible that's on single, and I don't know who that would be.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't
either,
think so. Nope.
But that's what it says on the sheets.
I will look
and
at the
and
billing.
if
I'm
you see
sure all the-
anything,
I'm
'cause
sure all
I
the
mean, I don't
singles-
see that necessarily.
I'm sure all the singles
So-
are in the
Yeah.
plan one.
I just don't want anybody to be on
Yeah.
a single in the $3,000
Yep,
plan. It
I
makes
will
no
look at the
sense.
billing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to, I mean, if, I was hoping that was wrong, but
As
that's
far
what it
as I
shows.
know, it is wrong.
That's what it shows on
Yep,
that
okay.
anyway, so.
Well,
If
personally,
anyone-
I've had no contact with any of our employees in reference to not being satisfied with insurance coverage. I have not heard boo, and prior to coming on this board, I used to hear things from employees when I first was running, but I haven't heard anything since, so we appreciate your service and keep up the good work, and I know it's bad news, but it could be worse,
It
right?
could be worse, yeah, there's no doubt, but I really do appreciate it too, and then, you know, anytime you have any questions, if you want to, be glad to meet with you at my office here,
Sure.
anywhere, glad to go over it, and,
We appreciate you fighting for our rates
Yeah.
that they did offer from 25 down to 15. I mean, that's a big deal. And
yeah.
Those are pretty big dollars, I think.
Oh, it's a lot of difference.
They are.
Yeah.
You know,
I would echo what everyone has said, and I personally, Ray has been a great help. Anytime I've had any questions or concerns, he will always meet with you and explain it, so I
you.
appreciate that as well.
There you
Thanks,
go,
Ray.
make a profit
Appreciate
too. Got to pay for that new building. All right, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thanks, Ray.
All right, let's go to the monthly reports, and Extension is not here. They are up to their eyeballs in the first full day, really, of achievement days out there. In fact, I'd asked them to come up for an executive session, and they couldn't even get away. So we're going to go on with Al, Veteran Service. Good morning, Al.
Morning, good morning.
Good morning, Al.
For the month of July, we had 87 walk-ins slash appointments, 4 trips Sioux Falls with 8 riders. We are we're putting together a plan to bring down the Canadian Vietnam Veterans Memorial Moving Wall. A lot of people don't realize that Canada was not in the Canadian War, but over 10,000 Canadians came down and joined our forces. And about 150 of them gave their lives for our country. So we've been in contact with a group up in Canada, and they're going to be bringing it down over our Veterans Day weekend. They'll get here on Thursday, and they'll be set up on Friday through Monday.
Where will they set it up?
You'll be at the Redland Arts Center indoors.
Yeah.
So we're working hard on those plans. We're very excited about it. Myself and 4 other gentlemen went up to Winnipeg in the middle of July and met with them and just really had a great time and bonded really.
Were the fish biting?
I have no idea. We rode our motorcycles, so I couldn't tell you.
Al, when is the dates again on that?
Well, it'd be November. You'll get here the
This will be the weekend of the 9th, 10th.
Yeah, you'll get here the 9th or the 7th, 8th will be the opening ceremonies, and then they'll leave Tuesday morning the 12th.
Okay.
So basically, it is only the 8th through the 11th, though, because they'll be taking
Right,
off, so.
yep.
Okay. November 8th through the 11th.
And I'm going to approach the mayor, and I'd like to approach you folks to have a proclamation for Canadian Vietnam veterans and for what they
Sure.
did for us.
You had the
So-
moving wall here
A few years ago.
just.
We had 2 of them. There was twice, 2000 and 2010.
I remember the 2010 one, it was out the Redlands
Yeah,
Center.
and the 2000 was on Redland also, and that was the big one. That's when we had over 30,000 people there for the week.
Wow,
Yeah, we really had a nice turnout.
yeah.
So do you want to go through my budget?
Yeah, one other thing.
Yeah.
First, on my calendar, on the 22nd of August, I've got a town hall meeting. Is that still a
Yes,
go?
that's still a goal.
Okay, the
Yep.
22nd of August at 4 to 6.
At the Elks Lodge.
Okay,
Yep,
all right, budget.
okay. The only increases that we showed that I put in for over this year was insurance, obviously, and wages. Everything else stayed static. So it increased about $6,400 or so.
Okay, any questions for Al? I do have one thing before you get away,
Well,
Al.
I've got one other thing for you too. Go ahead.
Maybe I'm getting your report, but Al called me with a situation the other day. There was a lady that came to visit with he or whoever in their office and couldn't get the elevator to work, or the chairlift, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, a little bit of an issue, and so they called, Al called me and said that we're gonna have to do something, so I did pay a visit to Al's office this last week, and you know what, I couldn't get that sucker to work either, and I just couldn't get it to work, and then you have to have a key, or you have to push the button and get one of these people to come down and help you. Anyway, we had the key, Al had the key, and I was jerking on stuff, and he was jerking on stuff, nothing would happen. And so, you know, I don't think Milo is here for buildings and grounds, but we're gonna have to do something with that elevator, or that chairlift over
Well,
there.
I did receive an email CC from Milo that he sent to Jay DeLang
I was going to say, it would be
and
the
questioning,
city.
Yeah.
but I haven't heard back what that
I
conversation
saw that, I
That's
saw
a
the same.
city chair, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Park and Rec.
City
I saw the same
buildings.
email, but I didn't see the response, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what I just handed out is our distribution of VA expenditures for fiscal year 18. And under Cottington County, total expenditures that came into Cottington County was $13,793,000. Now it's for the year. And that's an increase of about $400,000 over last year. And on the second page, it gives the breakdown of all the different areas that the VA pays or makes payments to, including health care and home loans and loan guarantee and all that kind of stuff. And you can compare it to all the other counties. Some of the counties, they have really high education. Well, that's Brookings, Vermillion, all the universities and colleges. But we bring quite a bit of cash into Cottington County and through the VA. Any questions?
Everybody understand that? Any questions for Al? Any questions? See none? Well, thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Now,
Thanks,
keep me in the loop when you hear, if you hear anything from the city on the,
Okay,
on the
I will
list,
do that.
okay?
Yes.
All right, appreciate that.
So at this time, it's unoperational, is that
Beg your pardon?
the, it's unoperational at this time?
Apparently so, yeah.
All right, let's go on then. I guess we're gonna have a slideshow this morning from the lead supervisor, so we better get started.
Trying.
Did you bring popcorn then?
Lee's still downloading the photos.
Is it still downloading?
No, I got most of them. There's a couple that just,
He had 87 slides or something like
Yeah.
hemlock.
that. Hemlock.
Well, we'll first start out, so far on the report for the spray season so far this year, with 302 hours logged hours of spraying, 2,172 miles, 201 gallons of 2,4-D, 191 and 3/4 gallons of Tordon, and 11.5 gallons of glyphosate, or as people know as Roundup.
It's pretty technical, you're 3/4.
Yeah. I rounded the other ones because the other ones was a little bit more fractionally closer than this one, so. This past month in Sylvia, recycling was done on July 9th. Quite a few jugs showed up probably after the rain. They didn't run their machine in Sylvia because it was raining out pretty good, and they thought, well, if it stays kind of slow, they weren't going to start it. Well, as later in the day progressed, they had a trailer there, a big 20-some foot trailer, that got full when it left. So they were going to grind, they had to go to another spot and grind at a location, so they were going to grind them, empty the trailer out then. I've had 2 leafy spurge collections, both times between 3 and 2 releases per individual that came out. Probably about roughly one time there was 30-some people and 20-some the second time. So it was pretty decent collection days. And also this past, since I am now interim at large for the State Weed Supervisor Association, I will be that until it comes in February for the annual the meeting in Aberdeen. The gentleman in Hamlin County had retired, so I am taking over as at large or interim at large. So now we can go to our little slide presentation on the hemlock. Of course, we have got some in this county. Here in the past month, discovered another site, which is really horrendous. I just by chance was driving and seeing a plant alongside a field and thought, this is kind of odd. So I kind of thought, I'm going to kind of take a little closer look out in the distance, and I seen white blooms along a tree belt and went to the gentleman's place and asked if I could take a look, and he says, yeah, go ahead. And I went around the corner of the shed, and nope, I can turn around and go back because it was full. It was solid. So we did releases there when we got some moths in, and that would be some of the moths of the release that we got in July. But back in June, we had went out and collected some out in Nisland, and they were the larvae. If you want to slide through here a little bit.
All right, you have to go back and forth. Which?
So was that farmer aware of?
Well, he didn't know what it was. He'd been trying to spray some of it for years.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep, that would be the larvae of that moth. We did collect them out in Nisland area, and we go out and if you would scroll through, and so that I'll show you some of the plants and.
I have to go back to that.
Yep, that's no problem. This is the collection. They roll up in the leaves. As you can tell, some of them are clipping off the leaves. They get rolled up, and that's where the larvae hides in and feeds off of. And they clip them off, and we put them in containers and take them back.
So you're collecting the larvae.
We're testing the larvae. Yep, they're small. The moths come in as the larvae pupae, and then we get them from Montana, and they get shipped, and that's the best way to ship them is when they're in that development stage.
So just so people know what we're talking about so we're talking about
poison hemlock, yes.
Poison hemlock and releasing
larvae. Larvae
to eat it.
To eat it. We did one of the sites where we did spot it a couple years ago. Actually, that spot is pretty well probably only a fourth of the plants left. Of course, like biocontrol and everything, you don't totally eliminate it all, but you hopefully get it into a managing state.
Control it.
Yep,
So
control.
Where those spots are, then can you go there and collect?
And that's the problem. If Lee would scroll through.
If I would, yes.
Yep, if you would, that's another. You can just keep going.
Okay,
right there. That plant there, see all the rolled leaves on that? That is full of larvae. We cannot find sites like that around here to do that. We can find few leaves rolled here and there, but we don't see the devastation like that. So that makes a real good collection site. We feel, though, when we go to those sites, they might be a small site that's probably no larger than the top or the main floor of this building. Our sites are like acres. When we go, it might be 10 acres in a grove or 20 acres. So we just, the multitude of insects that we needs to be a lot larger. And I think in time, the development will occur. The only thing is like the site that I have in the southern part of the county, it's disappearing. So it's affecting, but we can't see devastation like that. So, you know, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Couple of pictures I couldn't.
Yep, couple pictures. Here's of the out in Island. The gentleman in the brown cap, he is the Department of Ag. The gentleman in the orange hat is Bob Feldhus. He is Hamlin County. He has quite a bit in his county, way more than I have. Dual County is really, really bad. And the two other gentlemen are interns for the summer for the Department of Ag. And there is where the rolled leaves, they come out, and that's where they're puckered and trying to get one to come out. You can go on. And as you see, when you went to that front picture, that's one of them that actually come out of the larvae. That is actually one that we actually found here in this area where his was on his finger. This here is the Grant County. He is 6'6". As you can tell, the hemlock gets a little tall. We have found some plants to be almost 12 feet tall. Of course, he's in a bunch of thistles too.
I think that's all that downloaded, Steve.
Yep, that's it.
It's a lot of eating for them little
In scientific terms, that's called biological control.
Yes.
And we've been doing it for many, many, many years, and it's a slow process.
It is a slow process. Probably the hugest success of biocontrol is the leafy spurge.
It's hard for farmers because as an old farmer, I always like, you spray the field and you like to pull up on the road and get off and kick the tires and watch the weeds start to tip.
Right.
And this isn't the way that works. It takes years.
It takes years.
Thank you, Steve.
And
Any questions?
No.
You got some more for us?
I have a little more. I will probably be submitting a travel request soon as I get everything reconfirmed. I will be working at the State Fair at the weed booth either Thursday or Sunday. And then also the State Weed Commission and Tour, which will be in the Black Hills region. Currently, right now, they're probably looking at Rapid City for the location for the meeting and so yeah, but they'll have details down finally this week sometime. So,
Okay. Have we gone through your budget?
yeah, we did last month.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions for Steve?
Good presentation. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We're all very much more knowledgeable now. Thank you. All right, Sarah, Welfare Department. Morning, Sarah.
Morning, Sarah.
Morning, Sarah.
And we have it I think, that handout in the packet already.
Yep, okay. Nothing too significant differently. Did I say that correctly? I would say we, definitely we're in May, saw a lot more for housing on that. So there's not really a lot there. And then, so after that, then I submitted just somewhat of a summary for the NACO in July, the health steering committees. Did you guys get that?
Yep.
These
Yes.
report? Okay. The first part of it is just the different things that we did at the Health Steering Committee. A lot of discussion on rural hospitals and the closing and just looking at different programs. One of the things that one of the speakers talked about is a program that we don't use often, or an agency that has availability to help with housing and different things, is USDA. So I'll do some further checking into that to see what that is in those vehicles. There's a little bit, there was a, just a lot right now, of course, definitely with the medication costs and things of that nature. Within the resolutions on that starts about the page 3, if you'll take a note, we had 14 in our committee, or 15 that we looked at and passed. A big chunk of those are to not terminate Medicaid and to also continue insurance when somebody's pre-trial, so that they don't lose those. And that's pretty significant to us as counties. And there's actually is some legislation that federal legislation that might actually change that. So there is some movement in that.
That's a big deal because they would lose their health insurance coverage prior to trial.
Yeah,
Yes.
right now as it stands, you do lose your Medicaid benefits
Yeah.
once you're in jail pre-trial. So the person that bonds out doesn't, but the person that can't afford to bond out does. So definitely wanting to keep that, but also just the ability to suspend Medicaid versus terminate is significant for individuals, because when you suspend it, when they're released, they're usually if you're on Medicaid, in South Dakota especially, you have disability. So the moment that you're in the jail, you no longer get that disability benefit. But if you suspend the Medicaid that attaches to that, then when you're released, it automatically starts up. But if you terminate it, that person has to go through that whole disability process,
It's a big
which can
reentry,
take 90 days.
big reentry issue.
So is that just for if you're pre-sentenced? Because we have received payments for individuals who are in jail from Social Security.
Really?
It's been a while, so I'm not sure
That's something.
what it is.
Could it be something different?
I don't know, but we have received,
What the position is, so once you're sentenced, you definitely you lose those, you're supposed to lose
okay.
those federal
And
benefits.
it doesn't happen, it's only happened several times, so I can't understand, it came
Yeah.
from Social Security for an inmate that we had, but
Was actual Social Security, or was it Medicaid? I mean, was it for the medical? Because the Social Security benefit would go to the individual, not,
when they're incarcerated, I don't
that
know.
stops, that
Maybe it's-
benefit stops.
Okay,
Because
well,
they
we
become
did,
the
that's why I'm
responsibility.
asking,
Yeah.
was this something out of the ordinary that we got?
I would say so. I would have to look
It
further
only
into
happened
it.
several times.
Yeah.
so, Okay.
It
So
could,
what is the reporting method? How do they know that they're incarcerated?
that I
Good
don't-
question, because when we get the payment, when we first got, I think the first payment, we had no idea what it was for. And then we discovered that this inmate. They probably
Well-
receive a change of address.
When they're booked in, though, it's by name and Social Security. I would think they have all that information that would go into the state.
I
It's
don't
two
know.
different systems.
That's probably a
though,
question for the,
so-
I'm sure that, I
DSS.
think it probably goes into this, I mean, there's a nationwide, criminal database, so
Yeah.
there's no.
NCIC probably doesn't tap into the federal
No.
benefits
Change of
database.
address.
I don't know, anyway.
Yeah, all right.
It's a system.
Yeah, that's all.
I think DSS, South Dakota DSS could tell you a little bit more.
But just so people know what we're talking about, so we're talking about the fact that when an inmate somebody gets arrested and put in jail, even before they are convicted and sentenced, their Medicaid and VA benefits go away.
Okay.
So that means the county has to pick up the tab, and then we can work on collecting that later on, but, that doesn't always work.
So this resolution that you're talking about would fix that problem.
Well, because right now, it's terminated, and so then they have to go through that process again,
It
right?
can be. South
Yeah.
Dakota, I think, did change to where we have
Suspended it.
However, it's not, we want it to be nationwide. I do
Right.
think I have to double check. We're pretty good about that for as far as the Medicaid component. But as far as your benefits, we want to go even further than that and say, you know, that it's, what the NACO's position is, it's a violation of somebody's rights. If you're innocent till proven guilty, but you've been booked and you can't afford to bond out, we have now taken away that benefit before you've been sentenced. So just saying that it's kind of a hindrance to somebody that is already poor and can't afford to bond out, and try to remove one of those barriers of those individuals. So if you take a look at a lot of these resolutions, they do have to deal with that. There is a little bit with the nursing homes. And then, of course, resolutions on supporting like mobile support teams and substance use, and like number 4, the integration of mental health and addiction care, just supporting substance use, opioid, and additional substance, and just making sure that there's that funding that continues to be there. And that's a bipartisan supportive bill, so those are pretty resolutions that have bipartisan bills supported. So on that, so those come from the Health Steering Committee. Some of them do cross over to the Public Justice and
They
Safety.
should pass,
as well.
though.
All these resolutions, all these pass, this is what NACO will advocate for us, and then they work towards federal regulations, and there are some current legislation that is being looked at. One did move through the House, and now hopefully will move through the Senate. The other thing I did share with you guys is kind of interesting is also the Cadillac tax. Senator Rounds is a co-sponsor of that. That has gone through the House. That is, you know, just you guys are talking about increased rates as far as health insurance. If this Cadillac tax doesn't continue to get suspended, you'll even see that jump even more. So I sent you some information on that, and just a policy brief NACO puts together that talks about how that can potentially affect anybody with an employee sponsored. So that's more from the county side, not the indigent side. It's an excise tax. We don't know it as the Cadillac tax. Like I said, Senator Rounds is one of the co-sponsors, but it wouldn't hurt just to let them know you guys, let them know you support that. And
I thought that was a reduction in my license fees on my Cadillac.
yeah, I wish.
And that's important that, you know, all of us maybe need to do a better job of reaching out to our representatives and let them know, you know, otherwise they aren't getting the feelings from their local constituents. So it would be an important.
Do the links work in the email you sent?
I think
the links.
so.
Okay.
Double
I'll
check.
yeah.
I sent it to myself and it did. If
Okay.
it doesn't, let me know and I'll
Okay.
resend
I
it
just
to
didn't
the
have a
link.
chance
So.
to. Okay.
Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, any questions for Sarah? I have a question. We have a new employee in the office there now. Kimmeray, is that how you say it?
Kim, call her Kim.
Kim.
Kimmery is her
Kim
official.
Larson.
Yeah.
And we will be acting on her actually employment in the later on in the meeting, but can you share with us a little? You didn't bring her with her.
Well, she's set to start tomorrow because I gave her the job offer pending the board approval to do that. She comes from actually worked at WAPA, Department of Energy. She is retired from there. She does have a criminal justice schooling background, not the degree, but also business administration. So she's got 25 plus years of experience in government. So an office work, and just was looking for something part-time in a little bit of more of the health and human services that she originally started out
Well,
when she
welcome
was
her
younger.
for us, will you?
I will do that, yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Sarah? Anything else? All right, Sarah, thank you very much.
Sarah needs
Budget.
to review her
Oh, yeah, her
budget.
budget. Yep.
She's probably just past the middle of your book, kind of.
says
It'll
care
be
of the
welfare.
It says care for.
Oh, it does. Mine says welfare.
Says what?
Mine says care of poor. 33.
I'm not there yet. Where's that?
Page 33.
Oh, yours is care of poor too. I don't know why she marked one.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
All right, go.
It's been like that
I
before.
like to make you
I'm
guys
done.
work.
I got it.
Good, okay. Really not a lot of significant changes. So to top off with personnel services, pretty much the same, just a little bit increase to cover the 3% COLA. I'll get my... as far as the request for services below, pretty, for professional services, that covers the contract, the BHDP, and then also it does cover if, you know, with the stepping up, like if you're looking at data support, there's about 5,000 in there and stuff too. When I do send my requests, I also send a sheet like this. Did you guys get that?
They got that
sheet?
also.
Okay.
Yep.
So it kind of tells the
Supporting
breakdown.
supporting documentation, yep.
You know, it's not a lot if you do decide to jump into it, but it's enough to maybe get things started. As far as the medical claims, the portion for inpatient, we currently have, it's the budget is $75,000. We have $3.4 million in poor relief applications and $360,000 requests for payments. How I define the difference, the poor relief applications is probably the higher, closer level of we have to actually look at it and take some action. Where the the requests for payments are at that. The poor relief it's just notifying. It's a informal process. Following through that, the requests for payments are those that we really have to look at. I currently have 3 that are sitting on my desk that potentially could go through if what avenues we're working at fall don't go, and those each are just about at the 20,000. So right there, you've got 60,000 potentially, and we're just waiting to see on the disabilities. That's one of the things that we do is when someone comes in, we look to see what other what options are for them, and one of those things that we do is the disability. If that goes through, then we wait to see if we can retroactive and work with that. So we have 3 potential claims right now that possibly, I don't know what the outcome will be on those. So 3 high probabilities on those. So otherwise, there's not a lot of significant changes different from the year before. Any questions for me, I guess?
On your line item 422, care for professional services at 55,000, what do you use that on?
30,000 covers the BHDP contract, and then the other is the data support for 5, consulting for 15, and training, and that's all with if there's anything with the stepping up. One of the things, I talked to Lincoln County, Oregon. They're about the same size as Cottington, and they have actually gotten one of the BGA grants. I asked one of their commissioners what they did to kind of move that forward, and they said the best thing that they did is they hired a part-time consultant who was actually retired that came in and was able to kind of focus and bring the different agencies together to kind of some of that friction of this is mine, this is yours, but to bring them together to move forward and actually dedicate time to writing on that grant. So they now do have one of the BGA grants, and they were probably behind us when we started, but having that part-time.
I think I met those guys at the Stepping Up. I think they actually had a little less population than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
So they would be a good
need to-
role model or somebody to reach out to see what they did. That's what I asked, what did you do? And the commissioners said that, getting somebody that was retired so that you didn't have that significant cost for that temporary, because otherwise it's significant. So that's kind of what that is there for, if that's something you guys want to. And then if you have any type of training, the other option too is like Travis Parker with policy research, but I don't think that'll go as far as bringing somebody in-house, so a consultant type.
Yeah, if there's anything that might explain like what that consultant did, like a report or something that they wrote, or that might be a helpful thing to help us understand.
Sure.
So.
Your total request is down just a shade from last year, I see.
Yeah, just a bit, yeah.
So that behavioral health deflection program, that's with Lutheran Social Services. That's the 30,000 per year.
That's what the contract is for.
And we have signed that for this year, but we would renegotiate that again.
I think we've been just kind of renewing it. I don't think the status is if we sign it for the rest of this year, think we're doing it for the rest of this year, right?
It's through, yes,
Yeah,
December
so,
20,
okay.
what is this year? 19.
Which line is that?
So
That
then
is
we,
actually in 422.
That's still in 422, okay.
We did, so Christina's the new gal that does that outreach service, case management, or outreach and case management component. We really recently just met with the police department. One of the things we talked about too is, I'll just share these with you. With that program is, there seems to be, it is not CIT, but what it does is if you look at SAMHSA, they have their 8 dimensions of wellness, which is kind of off of Maslow's hierarchy of need. And so a lot of the work that she does is she takes and she connects with people to see if we can meet their psychological needs, which is your air, food, water, shelter, clothing. Do you have any security issues going on? Because I think Troy could speak to that. A lot of the people that they're working with are probably down in this bottom rung and are struggling with that. And then if we can help connect to those services, that also, which is, there's the different components when you look at it. You've got to have, for wellness, you need to have good emotional support, social, occupational, financial, environmental, physical, intellectual, and spiritual. And so her job is to help connect to those resources, whether it's through NAMI or through the Beacon Center or through the housing components. And then so that too, what happens is also she's there to kind of help them in their interim until they can actually meet with their counselors, because on average it's about 2 weeks before they're able to get in, just to keep them that balance. Or there's been where we've identified dementia stuff. And so also if those lower levels are met, then by the time they do meet with that counselor, they're able to work on some of those coping skills as well. So it serves several. It also helps with the navigating coping skills. If these individuals had good coping skills, they probably wouldn't be across the police department. So it's helping them to say, do you know you can ask for this? Or do you know how to approach this? Do you know how to do paperwork? Working with an individual right now, he can't write because he's got neuropathy. So we're able to help him out with those applications. And so those are the barriers. Well, what's your barrier that prevents you? Well, I don't have transportation and I can't write. So working on that, and that individual's connected right now to probably about 5 different resources to be able to help that. And she was able to, take the individual to their appointment, because like when you apply for housing, you have to, even if someone else helps you with that, if they have any changes, you have to do that in office. You can't do this stuff out of office, just the way the federal forms are, 30 pages for your housing applications, a lot for somebody. So it is really significant in helping address a lot of those barriers, several barriers. Your housing, do you have food? Do you know where to get your food? What services that are in the community? And also addressing the self-barriers. So.
something that I'm going to bring up during the open is the 211, which would also be a resource for these individuals, that they would be able to do this, that would be significant.
What is the cost of that? Because we had checked into that a while back, and it was pretty significant.
It is about 50 cents per person, but now the state is going to kick in some of that, because we are now, our state supports that. So they are going to allow some funding to the counties to do this, and so then it will be up to the county to come up with the difference. But even though the cost, they track where your deficiencies are. So that will be big for us, where our deficiencies are. If we want to apply for grants, it will be a tracking mechanism. But there was an individual who spoke on it. It's also to help with your local 911, that you're not getting those calls that an individual called up and said his Jello wouldn't set. So, okay, this is things that needs to be on. Yeah, I mean, it's simple little things like that you end up going through the 911 system or the police department. And so 211, it's going to be a suicide crisis line that's also very big. You have mental crisis after hours, and they will put you in touch with a mental health professional that they would be able to talk to.
Actually, and that's something when we did the task force we looked at, and I would very much support
yes,
that as a
it
tool.
would be. I know it came across their desks but I really feel it's the time we need to, if we're talking about alternatives and trying to give individuals resources, this is important.
What did I hear, that the cost to the county would be about $15,000 a year? Something like that?
Yeah,
It's
because I
based
remember
on,
checking at
it's based
that.
on population.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
so your
yes,
major centers
per
are going to be
capita. It'd be about 50 cents you can base, and that's if the state, we don't know how long the state's going to support it, but I think that you will find that the benefit from this is going to outweigh the cost when you get down to what its capabilities will be for the individuals in our community.
And I'd contacted them just to see the costs on that too, but if you ever look at their database too, because you can look at Brookings and all that,
Yeah,
it does
Brookings
show
does,
you where the needs are and that, the gaps. And I do think that would be a good complement to, like, the deflection program is a little different, that person's reaching out to that individual as well, especially when they've had trauma. And that's pretty significant. Now, all the empirical data supports, early intervention, reaching out to them sooner, just because what happens is after 24 hours, you're like, oh, I'm okay. 48 hours, I'm fine. I don't need it till the next crisis.
We're kind of wondering off the budget here. Do you have any other questions in reference to the
I
budget?
just want to, Mr. Chair, if I can, just 42720, that's the office travel. I just want to ask if there's any questions from other commissioners, because that seems to come up every time we get a travel request and we have discussion on whether or not that travel was necessary. So now is the time, if there's a question on the travel, to bring that up, because hopefully that's not going to be an issue.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I guess I do bring that up every year just for the simple fact that for one person in the office, it's just as high as our travel budget is for all 5 of us. I do question that, but I guess I'm the only one that has concerns, so.
And that's for the 2 NACO conferences.
That's the key part, yeah.
The 2 NACO conferences, the Homeless Consortium that's in Chamberlain, and that we've learned they usually bring in some pretty good speakers. We didn't go this year. And then the county welfare official workshops.
Okay.
Too, that they have.
All right, any other questions? Anything else? All right, Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
You too. Yes, yeah. I've got 3 client appointments, so just.
Sarah, will you bring your new employee to the next meeting so we can all be introduced to her? All right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, appreciate that. Let's go on then to item number 8. Discussion, possible action regarding a bid award for the 2019 liquid asphalt. Rick? Been patiently waiting there. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning.
Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Rick.
This concerns the bid that we have for our liquid asphalt through Flint Hills out of Marshall, Minnesota. Their product that they sold us did not meet specs, the state specs, so I stopped receiving it until they gave me a call, which was last Thursday afternoon, saying that they met specs again, and I wasn't sure what to do, so I called Cindy and I talked to Rod at the state audit, and then I talked to Becky at the state's attorney's office, and they told me that being it was an emergency, I could buy off from someone else. It didn't go that far, but if it would have kept going, we'd have got oil from someone else this week.
And then
And we would not have been in violation of our bid because,
Yeah, they didn't meet state specs,
right,
so.
right.
They didn't uphold their end of the contract,
Yep.
basically.
But it did get resolved, so we are
Yep.
getting the bid that we accepted.
And I will know tomorrow if we did get loads that did not meet state specs. We may have gotten 5 loads that didn't meet state specs. So there was a couple on township roads that we used, and the rest was on ours.
So then do you have to grind that and start over, or how do you fix that issue?
We'll see what happens. We'll go from there. If it doesn't do anything, we weren't out anything. But when they asked us if we wanted to keep going, they offered us a reduced price of $25 a ton. So I did not take that. But hopefully if we got 5 loads, they'll reduce that.
$25 a ton.
Yeah, so.
That's what I was wondering.
But then if they reduce it and it doesn't hold up, are we able to
Yeah,
go
by
at?
taking that, or are we
That's
saying
something
that?
that I'll have to talk more to
Yeah.
Becky
Yeah.
about, so.
Because if we agree to that, then we're agreeing to
Yeah.
that standard.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
All right, okay, good. Well, thank you for keeping us in the loop on that deal. Appreciate it.
we're back chipping today, but I just got a text, we lost a truck, so,
Oh, boy. One of our old ones that you had talked about earlier?
well, kinda, yeah.
Like you lost it, like you can't find it, or like you
Yeah.
lost it, like it's just broke
The
down?
fan went through the radiator, so,
Oh, okay.
so it's down.
Oof.
Well, it's about break time, so maybe they're behind some trees.
I think there's a story that goes along with that, but, all right, okay,
Okay.
thank you, Rick.
Yep, thank you.
All right, let's go on to number 9, action to declare the treasurer's printer equipment surplus and to be destroyed. And I think that's explanatory right there.
Make a motion.
We have a motion by
Second.
Hatton and a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Is it just one printer?
Just one printer, yes.
All right, and any other discussion? Anything else? Do we have a dollar amount? Not?
No, it's less than $500.
All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's go on to number 10, acknowledge notice of intent to retire submitted by the Emergency Management Director, Jim Sutton, and action to advertise for this position. And I have in front of me, I think I read it to somebody last week, the letter that I received from Jim a week or so ago. It says, Myron, this notice is to inform you that it is my intention to retire from my position as the Director of County Emergency Management effective January 31st of 2020. It has truly been a pleasure working for County for at least the last 16 years. I appreciate the support that I have received from the Commission and the opportunity I was given to serve the citizens of the county. I am also thankful that I have had so many dedicated, caring, and hardworking fellow county employees to work with over the years. I will cherish the support that I have received and the friendship I have made. Sincerely, Jim Sutton, Director of County Emergency Management. And I'll just close by saying congratulations. Jim, come on up here. Come on up. Congratulations. That's what we all work for, is retirement. And you've achieved that, and you've earned it. And
Well, it's a good thing there was just an acknowledgement, because I don't think you would have gotten a motion for this.
so that being said, I would entertain a motion then to accept
I'd make that,
notification.
I'll make that
We
motion.
have a motion by Commissioner Waterman,
Second.
and a second by...
That's just to advertise for the
Hatton.
This is
position.
to advertise for the position.
And now, he's not going to leave us till the end of January. How soon do we want to start advertising? That's the question that I have. You know, 6 months is a long time.
Yeah.
Wasn't it September?
Should we set a date? Well, let's take one motion at a time. We have a motion to accept his retirement letter.
We don't
Is there
need.
any discussion?
It isn't a motion on that. It's a motion to advertise the position.
Is that what the agenda item is?
We just have to acknowledge the notice.
We just have to
We just
acknowledge
acknowledge it,
Action
but
to
the
Do we
motion,
advertise.
acknowledge? Board members, do we acknowledge? All in favor,
Acknowledge.
say aye.
Got it.
Aye.
All right, we're all acknowledged, so we know that you're going to retire.
Right.
Yeah, and now we need to discuss or talk about, when should we talk about advertising?
Well, right now, all you need to do
It's
is
just the
take action to advertise. You can discuss the timeline at a later date.
And I talked to Jim a little bit, and you kind of give me an idea. You said what, October, November?
Well, we talked about the advertising, the position in September, doing interviews and having an applicant chosen in October and offer the position to that person to start around the 1st of January or
Yep.
thereafter.
So they could work with you for a year.
Not for
Not
a
for
year.
you.
A year, a
I'm
month.
not sticking around, Myron.
A month. Which,
No, you were right. It's a year, right?
along with accepting their proposal to retire, I also have the packet from the Office of Emergency Management, and this is the paperwork for the 2020 grant. And I think there's 100 pages of forms
you
to
get
fill
it?
out in there.
No.
Anyway,
Oh,
he's got
I
it
didn't
now.
get it. This is the SLA packet.
Yeah, I got a notice saying that you had been sent the packet.
I got the packet and I handed it on, so there it is.
All right.
So,
They probably don't trust emergency managers to relay the packet anymore, because everybody wants out of the program.
The additional thing that I'd like to add is that, you know, you've been just a wonderful employee for Cottington County, and search and rescue has been a big part of your work that you've done here, and they're going to miss you. Also, I think that people need to realize that Jim has done a lot of work regionally and statewide as well. I know during the flood when the river got so high, I can't remember what year.
2011.
Anyway, Jim was down in Omaha or Sioux City.
Dakota Dunes.
Dakota Dunes,
Right.
working with them people down there. They called him in, and so he's very, very knowledgeable about his work and his obligations, and notice statewide for his good work. So thank you for everything you've done, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. And then thanks for the support, and that's the reason I wanted to announce my retirement early, so we had plenty of time to look at advertising and selecting a replacement. I don't like the 2-week notice stuff.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
That's how you came in, right?
Right? That was short notice.
You know,
We have a motion and a second to advertise. We just need to act on it.
oh, we have a motion and a second to advertise. We need, is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? We can talk about the timeline later on. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we've got another step, all right?
Another step.
Get that paperwork sent into the state so you make sure you get that retirement check
I'll
on
do
time.
that.
All right, very good.
Let's,
The roster's next.
the rosters next.
Yep, let's go right on. Let's go to the emergency management, the search and
Number 11.
rescue. The search and rescue update roster, and that's included in your packet.
I'll make a motion that we approve this
I think there's
updated
most
roster.
everybody in Cottington County on here, aren't they?
A second.
We have a motion by who?
I make a
Hanton.
motion.
Second by
Hanson,
Gable.
Second by who?
Gable.
Gable. Everybody had a chance to read it over, look at it?
Do you have any
This is the right one?
comments?
We're
Just
talking
the
about?
the only comments I have on that is we selected some new members that applied for the search and rescue team. And in order to be
Comply with
covered-
workman's comp, we need to
we need
update
to
it.
update the
roster.
roster and
Yep.
have it
Yep.
approved by you commissioners.
Yep.
All right, any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, number 12 then is a discussion with Tim Sheehan, Watertown Chamber of Commerce, and action to approve a request to serve alcohol at the event, an event at the Extension Center complex. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Good morning.
And Sean.
Good morning, I'm Sean.
Sean Dempsey.
That's really loud.
Okay,
You can turn it down.
and John is with,
Sean is with the Dempsey's Restaurant, Pub, and Brew House, or brewery here in Watertown.
okay, all right.
So I think you've read the letter that I sent. We're just going to have a first annual that Sean had presented the idea to have a beer fest as part of a sampling session here in Watertown. October 12th, looks like a 3 to 6 p.m., 3-hour event. Hopefully we'll have, I shouldn't say hopefully, we will have our karting machine there like we do for several events. We'll have security there to keep people in line for that 3-hour event, and then everyone will have a great time. Inviting breweries from North Dakota and South Dakota to compete for the Dakota Cup. Could also have some breweries from Minnesota, Iowa that'll be available, but just not be able to compete for the Dakota Cup title and the trophy.
Make a motion to approve
Second
this
that.
request.
Before I accept that motion, I would like to, at this point in time, the people at the extension office, Becky and Jody, had indicated that they encourage you to find another site. They're not able to be here today because they're up to their eyeballs in achievement days. And I would like to entertain a motion to delay the action of the board to let them have their say why they denied or why they requested that you find another site, just so that we could hear them out. I mean, that's only fair. They're our employees, and they're valued employees, and they're very involved in that facility out there. And what was the reason? And I have visited with them, I've communicated with them, but I'd like to have them have the opportunity to come and share with the board
Okay.
their reason, all right? I would entertain a motion to do that.
Well, we don't, I guess we can just, we don't have to take any kind of action today, right?
Now we can just delay
It's
the...
well, actually, it's discussion, oh yeah, and
And
to
action to
approve,
approve.
so,
Mr. Chair, this has been on the agenda. I would have thought that they would have been able to have somebody here. These two gentlemen have taken time out of their schedule to come up and give this presentation to our board. I think we need to take action on the request so that they can move forward with the planning. So my
And
motion's
I
been-
understand what you're saying.
There has been a motion made and seconded to
approve it.
approve it, so we're going to need to do something at this point.
Okay, so-
Either a substitute motion,
So we have, you went to them and secured the day
Facility and the date, yes.
and you didn't hear anything at that time of any sort of,
No, not back, just that we had to do this first in order to serve alcohol there. I have been here on behalf of the Pro Pheasants in the past and to receive that authorization as well. And that's going to be a 5 to 6 hour event, just like the Blue Camel races. And it's a lot more alcohol served at that event versus this quick 3 hour event.
And this is the first time you guys are hosting this event?
It will be, yes, and hopefully, I'm sure it'll go well, and we'll be back here again next year asking for the same permission to have this event.
And as a brewery owner, I've been to multiple events that are like these, and these are, I want to stress, they're not, you know, everybody goes out and drinks as much as humanly possible. You're doing controlled small pours. It's something where you're going to have about 60 to 70 different craft styles going on, so it's not something you can knock back a bunch of. It's different IPAs, different sour gozas. It's neat because usually you get to go to these events and you get to meet the brewers, you get to meet the reps from these different, you know, these different breweries, and they're showing what their craft and what they've been playing with, and you get to play with them about what they're talking about what they're doing, and it's really for any beer geek or anybody who's really into this thing. It's just they're very unique, and they bring in people. People love these things.
That was my next question is these types of things, I think, bring Watertown to the forefront as far as having these types of social events for people to go out and take advantage of. I think that's important that we continue to do that.
And the timing of the year is right, too. With new beers coming out, typically you can see them run anywhere in the calendar year, but in October, it just kind of lines up really well with
It does
new
for the
brewer flavors coming out.
It does for the bitter end of for you know, festival season and all of that. And the other nice thing is it also, when people come to town for this, they don't leave that day. They stay, they shop, they eat, they stay in a room or something along those lines. So it's
economic.
In my conversation with Jody and Becky, number one, I didn't have any of the information that you had right here.
That's
I didn't
correct.
have any of that. So there was a lot of missing, questions that I had, and I think, I don't know if they had the information or all the information or what.
I
But anyway,
believe I sent this to Becky when I received it last week.
Which would have been late last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the same
Yeah.
time, Becky had no idea what a beer fest was.
And they've changed from 10 years ago.
It sounds like the terminology,
And-
just like a smoke fest. Not a barbecue thing, it could be a...
And after they probably have received this letter, they probably have, rethought this, but I still would like to give them, as we give them a lot of responsibility out there, the opportunity to express themselves and why they deny the request forthgoing. And I can't, if this is not until October, we still have 1 week lead time, would still be plenty of time, I would think. If we would.
When does this organization meet again? Every week?
Tuesday.
Every week,
Oh, okay,
next Tuesday,
okay.
yeah. That's my request, but if the board doesn't want to do that, that's fine, that's just me.
I'd like to see an amendment made for just 1 week to postpone it for 1 week to that agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to amend the initial motion. Is there a second to the amendment?
Well, no, they're not amend,
No,
You're offering-
just want to amend it.
You're offering a
He's offering a
substitute.
substitute motion, as
Substitute.
technically as a term.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay. So now, read the motion as it is.
Charlie's motion would be to delay action 1 week on the
But he has to
authorization.
get a second.
And we do need a second on that.
Is there a second? Is there,
Brenda?
Brenda seconded?
No, I didn't
Oh,
second
I'm sorry.
it.
That's this Pardon
She
me.
said it needs a second.
It needs one, I didn't say it.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Well, I can second it. I'll second it.
So now we just vote on the,
All in favor indicate by saying aye on the amended motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
no,
No.
It looks like it's failed, so it's 3-2.
now we go
So
back
we're
to
back
the
to the
original.
original motion. And the original motion,
Was to authorize, or to approve the request to serve alcohol.
okay, and any more discussion on that? Reading between the lines and discussing with the staff out there, I think, and kind of personally myself, I understand your industry. I understand that, and I'm not better than anybody else. I like cold beer too, you know.
Don't we all?
But what message are we sending to our community and to our youth? That facility out there, and if Laverne Marquardt were still here, he would be the one I would say step up and let's have an opinion. But I know when we built that facility, it was built primarily for youth, for 4-H activities and for the community and the community activities, which include the farm show and the rabbit shows and the auctions and it seems like more and more we're bringing in other events that are serving alcohol. And so I just ask, what message are we sending to our community and to our youth? And is it the wrong message, or am I getting old-fashioned here?
I think you're getting a little
Yeah.
old-fashioned, Myron, and with all due respect, Mr. Chair, I think that these are the types of events that our community is wanting to host, and I think we have the facility to do that. And if it's being done in a legal, respectful manner, I don't personally see a problem with that. If we have an issue, then we won't do it again.
That's when you have, yeah.
Then we take action. But I don't think that, I think we have the facility,
Yeah.
and
I
I
would
think we
agree,
move
we
forward
need
with these
to.
types of events. I don't have a problem.
In addition to that too, and the Pro Pheasants does a lot for children, a lot for gun training, a lot of those things. And the Boys and Girls Club, a huge fundraiser for them,
Yeah.
ties to alcohol. Alcohol does generate quite a bit of revenue, but I do respect that as well.
What is this organization going to do for the community as far as any profits that are being made? Will there be profits being made? Will they be given to charities or organizations?
This will be a fundraiser for the Chamber of Commerce just to go to our coffers and do whatever we wish to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And besides the fact you'll bring in individuals to this event that will help our community in some sort of way. Like you said, maybe they'll stay, maybe they'll go out and eat, they got to put in gas. It brings people in.
For bigger towns in South Dakota, I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 that don't do something like this every year, and it's changed a lot from 10 or 15 years ago when I was a kid growing up. You never saw these things going anywhere, and now they're popping up everywhere. And especially for craft beer in South Dakota, we've gone from 3 breweries 12 years ago to 33 last count, and they're only getting bigger and doing more. And I think as long as you take this industry that's clearly booming, and we treat this very responsibly. You have security stations, you have water stands, you have security out there to make sure that if there is a troublemaker, you remove them.
Right.
I think a key thing that you said there's a number of these new breweries in South Dakota, but this is going to open it up to North Dakota, Minnesota, and everybody else too. And so be it. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when, we've got 2 venues here on the sheet of paper. One is the Pro Pheasants. The other is the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Which are both public organizations supported by, one of them is supported by a tax venue. And is youth orientated. The Pheasants, Pro Pheasants is kind of the same thing. This is this is a group of individuals that are highlighting their own business for profit. Although the Chamber of Commerce is going to be the beneficiary of some of the monies, secondarily, it's to promote individual businesses, where the other ones are public.
Okay? Thank you for that comment. Anything else? Anything else for discussion? Seeing none, we're going to vote on this. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
No.
Aye. I believe it's 3-2, so it would pass. All right.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to number 13, and that is Scott Amundson, Governor's Office of Economic Development, presentation on livestock development, sales, and use tax. And I believe I saw Scott come in. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Scott.
For the record, I prefer Keystone Light, if you want to write that.
Prefer what?
Keystone Light.
Oh.
We're talking about beers.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for having me this morning, Commissioners, and for getting me on the agenda.
You bet. And there is a handout in your packet in reference to this. So with that, I would say go ahead and share with us your ideas and thoughts.
I also have some information.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Scott, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thank you. I believe we do have that.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it in an email from I think our association, so I did get it ready. But yours is a better copy than the one I got, so.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Amundson. I'm the Community Development Rep for the Governor's Office of Economic Development. I'm from Pierre, and I cover 26 counties in the northeast of South Dakota, including Coddington. And that's kind of why I'm here today. I brought with me 2 wingmen support. I have Nate Graff, who's our Business Development Rep from GOED. And of course, you know Chris Shokin for Watertown Development. Those 2 will be instrumental in this whole process too. So like I said, I do community development where I work directly with people like Chris and economic developers across my part of the state, work with great people like you to help advance and advance your communities and provide resources and outreach from the governor's office. And we appreciate all the things you guys do in Watertown. You do great work here, and certainly recognized for that. So our mission with the Governor's Office of Economic Development is to create and save good-paying jobs with benefits, grow and enhance the tax base, and improve the quality of life for all South Dakotans. That's what we work for and we strive to do every day. Our office is structured, like you would assume, with the finance department, marketing and research, admin, of course, but then our business development and our community development work closely with the economic developers and businesses across the state. And this year, the governor has invited the business development reps from the Department of Ag to join us because Governor Noem and Commissioner Westrow have elevated production ag as one of our targeted industries in South Dakota. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a program that could enhance production ag in your county and provide some benefits that you may or may not know about. So not only value-added ag and precision ag, but production ag in South Dakota is very important to Governor Noem. And I wanted to explain that back in 2013, the legislation was passed for what's called a sales and use tax rebate program. And that program has mostly been used for manufacturers and wind energy projects. An example is, let's say Terex is coming to Watertown and they have a $10 million expansion on equipment. Well, they would pay 4.5% of the tax on that equipment, which would equate to about $450,000. And our office would negotiate a portion of that $450,000 back to that company directly as an incentive for growing and doing business in South Dakota. So that's not going away, that's still there. However, we're going to extend an arm of that program to what's called livestock development. And that could be anything from a CAFO feedlot to a hog unit to poultry to dairies, aquaculture, even buffalo. It has 2 triggers that will help this process. It has to be approved, a conditional use permit by the county, by you, and add livestock to the state of South Dakota. So 22 of South Dakota's 67 counties in the dark, upside down, in the dark, do not have zoning. So those that don't have zoning obviously wouldn't have a conditional use permit. Most of those are in West River. So 22 of my 26 that I cover all do. And you all meet on Tuesdays, so I'm trying to get to you as fast as I can. So, but I'm not sure if you've heard of this before, but word is traveling fast, and I know Chris knows all about it, and Nate's in your town here in Watertown, so those 2 guys are going to play a big role in this if you find it a good fit for Coddington County. Reiterate the 2 triggers that make this happen is it has to require a new county conditional use permit approved by you and add livestock to the state. So the livestock, the same the same scenario, if a $10 million livestock project was to surface in Cottington County, rather than 4.5% going back to the developer, that money would be targeted and directed directly back to the county itself with no strings attached. Here again, having local control, you still have to follow the same policies and procedures and zoning and ordinances as you normally would, but it's to incentivize those counties that find livestock development a good fit for them. And some don't in South Dakota, but most of them do that I've talked to so far. But obviously you have to report to your stakeholders, and if they don't want it in your backyard, you know, it's going to be up to you as if that fits or does not fit. A real life scenario, not far from here, was a $50 million dairy that was coming to South Dakota. 30 million of that 50 million was taxable with building materials and equipment and so forth. So if you do the math, that's $1.3 million that would have been going to that county once that project crosses the finish line. However, the county did the right thing, and they had to deny it because they found a well too close to the property and they couldn't pass it through DNR. But that project is still looking for a home, just so you know. And so are others. We have a lot of others that are in the pipeline right now. So we all know that county funds are tight sometimes and budgets are tight. So a lot of counties are finding this as a possible good way to assist that. As I said before, the county's free to use the funds, has no strings attached. It could be a new road grader, fixing a road, better funding your economic development organization, sheriff's office, whatever that would work for you. I did want to show an economic impact study that we had done. There was a state-of-the-art hog confinement that opened recently in the southern part of South Dakota, and the economic impact study of the state-of-the-art facility showed it had 19 new jobs created and $1.268 million in annual payroll. They're going to purchase $1,300,000 worth of feed from a local feed mill. 180,000 bushels of corn are needed to feed this farm. They're using 216,000 of utilities, and they have a charitable program that they give back to the communities and the counties that they serve. So not only is this one-time money for the county at the end, at the finish line, but just think of the long-term economic impact of housing and jobs and schools and tax base and things like that. So how it works, and this is really important, the process has to start with the economic development director, Chris, and the business development, Nate, to do the project. They would do the work with the developer. And I've been told from the planning district and the state's attorneys, it would be in your best interest to keep it as much as arm's length as you could, just so there's no notion of improprieties or unethicalness. You still have to go through the same protocol and processes that you normally do. But that doesn't mean it can't be top secret, but it certainly can't have a bearing on your approval process, knowing that there could be some dollars at the end. So we've had a little bit of bad press over that, but we're trying to clarify that this is still local control. It still goes through your certain ordinances, and your planning district and your business development reps and your economic development groups are the ones that help make sure that gets done. So Nate, when a project surfaces, I would highly recommend Chris and Nate get together, and they would work directly with the developer to go through our proposal process long before you have it as a hearing for a conditional use permit. Is there any question on that? It's really important, because if it gets flip-flopped and you hear it before we see it, you can't play. Right? That's how it has to work. But it's in your best interest. You don't want to go, if it goes upside down and you get sued, you don't want to have to be deposed or testify at a hearing because of this. So we want it to be a positive thing for those counties that see it as a good fit. And then we would work with the company directly to assign the money to the grant to the county at the end of the race. And our Department of Revenue would calculate the sales and use tax throughout the project. And at the end of the day, they would write the check to the Cottington County if you so see fit. So that little map in the middle of your page shows our South Dakota regions. I cover the blue and the orange. Slacker Nate only has the orange. So he has, but he does a lot of work. Nate works directly with businesses, where I work with a lot of the economic development groups. So obviously he's your point of contact, Nate Graff, and he's in that contact rep list right below, and Chris knows him very well. So it's really important to really remain understanding of the local control process. It does not change the ability of the county to approve or deny. The county still maintains local control, and it still has to go through all the DNR and processes like that. Some counties see it as a good fit, and some may not, and it's totally up to you. Regulations stayed the same, as I said. The roles and responsibilities are very minimal for the county. GOED and the developer does all the work. And like I said before, please don't not let it to allow you to approve or deny a project just based on a potential incentive. So one-time money at the end of the race, long-term economic development impacts, it's just one of the tools South Dakota can use to help with economic development, because we're competing against Minnesota and Iowa and other states that just throw money at these projects to come to their state. So this is one way the legislature and the governor says we can incentivize our counties and these developers to come to South Dakota and grow our livestock.
Well, I appreciate the efforts that you, UAD, and the governor are doing. But you hit the nail right on the head. Whenever we act on something like this, someone is looking for some undermining procedure, and they're going to say, well, the reason that you voted it in or authorized. Red and I both sit on the planning and zoning board here, and so we've been through the mill. We know the ins and outs, and we're going to get accused of making our decision based on money coming back to the county. I mean, we've been through with wind towers and everything else, you know. So I appreciate every effort that you can put forth to put that out.
We'll support that 100%, and that's why Nate and Chris need to stay involved at the very beginning stages of these programs, so you don't have to have your fingerprints on it.
So we'll just pass it on to them and they can take the heat.
The main thing, well, the
That's
main thing
correct.
to remember is these individuals will still have to go through the same process to get
Permitting
these
process.
conditional use
Absolutely.
permits permitted. So there's no guarantees, you know, of
100%.
any of this. So I know that it can be construed that, yes, you're trying to approve this because you're going to get, but also in the same token, individuals that are concerned about their roads, you can also say there may be this funding availability that will help support building that road up or keeping that road in good repair, because it goes into the general fund and there are no limitations as to what line item that goes in.
I think you're going to hear from Todd Kays sometime that we haven't got one across the finish line yet, so we're still learning, and we have a lot in the process right now. Todd is thinking that in the end, they may amend this where it doesn't necessarily need to trigger a conditional use permit, just maybe a number of increase of herd of stock, you know, 500 to 1,000 cattle or whatever. That was his, and he'll tell you that too. He couldn't be here today, but
I was going to ask you that question as well, if it's an expansion of an existing.
Any
Yes.
conditional use permit would be involved in it.
So,
if it meets your ordinances that require a permit, then yes. Yes, indeed.
So what procedure do we go? How do we as a county
It just is-
say that we're willing to participate?
it's just
Put it on
available.
our agenda for next week and
I don't think you have to make
No.
any action.
It's just
Mr. Chairman.
available. Yeah, it's just a tool in the
This-
toolbox that's
Exactly,
available.
you know, something surfaces
get
as
to
it
work.
normally does, you connect these two guys with the developer and they'll do all the work behind the scenes. And in the end, if you find it a good fit for you and your stakeholders, then you could be rewarded.
You may want to check, I was at a meeting yesterday that possibly Davison County may be one of the first ones. They have a hog operation that,
The one in Elkton that I was speaking of, the economic impact study, they were already in process before this ever started, so they didn't participate. But it's a state-of-the-art facility, great job creation, totally clean air, shower in, shower out. Don't you agree, Nate? It was terrific. And it's not like the old time.
right.
but it still goes back to not in my backyard.
Yes, sir?
That's what it's boiled down to, not in my backyard. And we deal with that every month.
Not in my backyard, but if it could help generate revenue for your county and do wonderful things for roads and bridges and economic development and other projects.
Do it in Lee's backyard.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So just to kind of reiterate the process, so the application's between the developer and you guys, really. So if we learn of something, direct them to you.
Please, sir. It
And
has
then-
to be the first step, at least 2 to 3 weeks before you ever put it on a hearing for the commission.
And then the incentive for the developer is the,
We have other programs that could incentivize the developer as far as low-interest loans if they need expansion, but this money is not negotiable. 100% of the 4.5% goes to the county.
right, okay. So so we just kind of have to, you know, it's kind of, for them to go through that process, they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart for the county. So that's, okay.
That and for little business, because South Dakota is a good place to do business, and people like Nate work
Yeah.
with these companies to bring them in from California and Illinois and Minnesota and understand our
Right,
tax
okay.
base and our work ethic. And
So like you said, our role as a county commission is minimal.
I
We
would
just
say
wait till the
just hopefully
permitting
it gets
comes
connected.
through the
Just to,
Planning and
planning
zoning.
it shouldn't
zoning
change at
and-
all.
yeah,
It needs
so
to follow.
We just
but-
do what we do normally.
But understand in the back of your head, those counties are going to benefit financially, and there's several that are close in the hopper that are going to make this happen. But these guys are working hard to get this done. So we just really beg that it gets to Nate and our office and our Board of Economic Development to get it approved through the proposal process
Yeah.
before you have a hearing on it. That's pretty important.
Great.
so I think the key is going to be following our ordinance when it comes to the.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's basically it.
There's no minimum size. You can be a $1 million, it could be a $100 million project, and there's no minimum job creation like some of our finance programs say that's to create so many jobs. It's neither of those. So it's brand new, and the governor's excited, and Commissioner Wester's excited, and we're hoping this will make an impact on livestock development. Our website is on there. If you ever wanted to watch a full hour-long, Joe Fiala, my boss, does an archived webinar at SD Ready to Partner. It's free to watch if you want to learn a little bit more. And because I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I've done a few of these now. And like I said, I'm trying to get to many of my counties as soon as I can, but you all meet on Tuesdays. So
What is that, what is that website? I don't know if we, do
Any
you
more
have it
questions for
in the
Scott?
information?
SDReadyToPartner.com.
Scott, I see that if it's inside the city limits, that does not qualify
correct,
for
sir.
these
I
funds.
think it's
just
usually-
county.
Yes, I would imagine your ordinances say at least like a mile or two outside the city limits, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
there's regulations that's already in place by our ordinance, so
Okay.
Great question.
that won't be a concern.
All right, any other questions for Scott? Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
coming,
Scott.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate.
I look forward to working with you down the road. All right, let's go on to number 14, review the 2020 budget, and we've been doing that as we go, as we meet with the department heads. Anything you want to add to that?
No, nope.
All right. Well, I think are we wrapped up with all of the reports?
Yes, we have heard all the reports. We will be publishing the provisional budget in August, and then the public hearings start in September.
All right.
When is the final approval of the provisional budget?
Tuesday before the 1st of October, so it will be the 24th of September.
And we missed the week of the 17th because we'll be out at.
Yeah, we'll be at conference
Conference.
on the 17th.
All right, number 15, any change orders from the courthouse?
No, Mr.
tomorrow?
Chairman?
Nothing?
Nope.
You got number 16, action to approve claims for payment. Cindy?
We had salary claims in the amount of $558,920.18 for the
Move
month
to-
of July.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 17, action to approve automatic budget supplements.
Nothing today.
Good. 18, approve personnel changes. We have a bunch of those today.
We have 3 of those. The first one is Kimmery Larson. She would be the new hire in the welfare office, starting at step 3, $16.17 per hour. Lori Smith is a part-time corrections officer who has reached enough hours to go to step 4, $19.56 per hour. And Rebecca Ryder is a deputy state's attorney who is due an anniversary step increase. She'll go to step 8, $32.73 per hour.
Move to approve those.
Second.
Motion by Van Duzen, second by Commissioner Waterman.
I
Any
have,
discussion?
okay, I have some discussion, and our state's attorney is here. Can we approve new hires without the employee signature? All these other ones have the employee signature, but this has happened twice now.
Well, these
And they
people are
don't-
already employed by us. She's
Right.
not.
But
She's a new hire. She didn't want to sign it until the board approved it. So there's really, we have no regulations on this form, none. Yeah, there is nothing that, yeah, there's nothing,
I just didn't know if it was good to approve without all the
Yeah.
signatures on
And
it.
actually, Sarah asked me about that very question, and I said, we will not consider her a full-time employee until it goes for board action. And that's why it's happening today. She held up the whole thing.
yep,
All
she
right, any
will.
other questions? Do you have anything? We have a motion and a second.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, then we have travel requests. We have a boatload of them.
Let's see,
I think they're all-
first one, I believe they're all for the SDACC 2019 conference in Pier. Request from the welfare director, the treasurer, the register of deeds, and the auditor to attend that conference.
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion?
And I will need to know today who intends to go, because we will be paying bills next week and we'll need to pay registration. So if anybody, any commissioners plan on attending that conference, I will need to know.
I plan on.
Sue.
I plan to be there.
Okay, you three, okay.
Commissioner Waterman?
That's a Monday, Tuesday.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gable? No. Van Duzen, no. Hatton? and-
Anybody paying for spouse registration?
Yeah, me.
Okay. All right. Lee, will you be paying for spouse registration?
Maybe out to, do you need to know that right now?
We need to put it on the
Just
registration.
give her a check and ask to
Yeah.
find out later.
Let me get back to you later today.
All right.
There's no refund after September 1st.
Right.
Oh, no, after August
I'm gonna say
31st.
September 1st.
August 31st. Refund if canceled by September 1st, no refund after August 31st.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Then, old business, do we have any mature business we need to bring to the board?
Our Sioux Valley District meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 21st. I need to know if you intend to,
I think I already told you.
you have told me, yep. And
Yeah,
I think
I
Lee
did,
has
yeah.
told me
I'll be there.
you will be there. Charlie will be there.
It's in Clear
and
Lake.
Troy had a conflict.
Yes.
Correct, okay.
It's in that church, that's always hard to find.
All right, that's all I
How about new
needed.
business, anything?
I had some for old business.
Okay,
Couple
go
things,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Number one was our resolution to minimize taxpayer costs when funding county infrastructure. So I presented that resolution was before the executive committee of the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners, and they approved that unanimously to go forward to the overall association in September, the convention in September. So Brenda sits on that committee. So it had a very good discussion, I thought,
Yes.
on that. So it was interesting, some of the other resolutions. I don't know if you want to hit on any of those, but those were, it was good. So that one step forward on that. And then one other item, Mr. Chairman, you remember me mentioning Open Lattice and the Public Safety Assessment, or the PSA. So I've been talking to the Arnold Foundation a little bit by email on how to do that. So what we would need to do one of the things, in addition to just having the discussion here within the counties, I've been talking to some of the judges and the sheriff, and we're still kind of deciding whether or not we want to do it. But one of the things we probably should do as we consider it, is register on their website and that would give us a bit more access to some more information about the public safety assessment in particular. And so that people know what I'm talking about, it is a kind of a risk assessment, which is kind of like a questionnaire, but it's all done in an automated way, looking at say if a person gets arrested, brought to the jail, looks at their background within the two databases, the court database and the jail and law enforcement database, to see what their prior history is, and then makes a risk assessment based on the current conviction and other things that are present in those databases to say, does this person need to be in jail or not, kind of thing. But that right now, every county, every jurisdiction is going to handle that differently. So there'd be a process of, getting comfortable with the different ways that thing works. And right now, Minnehaha and Pennington are doing that. So it might be an opportunity to piggyback on what they're doing. So anyway, so just to let folks know, as long as nobody has a problem with it, I was just going to go ahead and register as a jurisdiction considering the PSA through that website. If you want to, we can wait. We can just take action on it, but it seems kind of like a small thing at this point. If we actually implement it, then that would definitely be something for action. But I wanted to let people know about that. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it for the old business from me.
Thank you for doing that, appreciate it. Okay, anything for the open? As far as I'm sure, like I said, 4-H Achievement Days are happening this week. Somewhere along the line, there could be a quorum of people out at the Achievement Days. Anything else?
Okay, so
There'll
at
be a
least.
quorum at the Commissioners Conference.
The
Clear Lake.
Clear Lake, yes.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
It's a couple weeks.
Yeah. As Lee referenced, I was at the executive board meeting yesterday. You will be seeing 3 resolutions come in front of you, one being Lee's, one being, the other 2 were brought from out west. The way it stands right now, which is a law that goes back to the 1950s, if there's some sort of disasters, the county could be required to pay up to 2 mills right
Of their
from
value, of the value,
yeah,
overall
of the
valuation.
valuation of the county. So like they said, that would break most counties because of the protest things that have happened out west is how they become aware of this. So they want to lower that to 0.5. So that's a resolution that will be brought forward. The other one is on delinquent property tax taken by the state who, if the counties right now aren't receiving any of the back taxes, so they want to try to recoup some of those funds because, as you know, the schools will get theirs no matter what. That's something that's collected, but the counties don't always. So they want to try to add that in as a possibility to receive that
Is that
funding.
from Ziebach or Harding County?
It was Black Hills District, so it
Hills,
was. And so we had 3 of them go to policy statement, which they'll probably talk about, and they were more on your mental health sort of situations that are happening statewide that they will be in our policy. So if something comes up in the legislature, then Bob and Chris, or Bob mainly, would be able to speak on our behalf if we have it in the policy statement. So those are all good additions to put in there to cover some of those situations. Yeah, it'd be great if you guys could attend our conference in September because we are going to have a presentation on the 211. That will be really good to help educate everyone as to what the possibilities are on that, and also some of the other things. But you'll be hearing more about 211. I really think it's our time to implement that in our county. It's a very good sort of resource for our individuals. So we'll probably have people come in here and maybe explain it, so then you can hear. And now with
I
the
would like
state,
to have it explained because we have 911, we have 511, and now 211.
211 it's a
411.
yeah. It's not called before you dig. We did have an individual come, a while back and explained it, but I'll have somebody come in and speak to the rest of you as well, just so that any questions that you have, they'll be able to answer. But it's a very good resource.
All right, anything else for the open? Anyone?
Chair, I would just like to extend an invitation to everybody on the commission and county employees, I guess. It's going to sound kind of narcissistic of me, but I'm retiring on August 30th from the police department, and we're going to be having a gathering at PD at 2 o'clock, so I just want to extend an invite out to everybody, so you're all welcome.
Also tonight, National Night Out. National Night Out is tonight also.
6 p.m.
Here at the courthouse.
Yep. All right. We had no requests for public comments, and commissioner comments. We've been hearing them, I guess. And I do have 2 requests for executive session. Becky is one. What is yours? What does it involve? Personnel. And I requested one, and that's also personnel. So they're both under number 1.
Motion to go into
Motion by
executive
Hamm to go into
session.
executive session. Second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? So none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session, and on my part, there will not be any action.